Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right? Oh! The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa.
Super Bowl champion, two-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And he picked it off! He picked it off! He's gonna score!
And we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Arrowhead Addict podcast. It is Thursday, June 27th. And hopefully you're having a good day wherever you are, whenever you listen to this. I, of course, am Matt Verderame. I am filling in for Patrick Allen, who is on paternity leave, hanging out with his newborn son and his wife. All things going well. This is the last show I'll be doing for a little bit. Next Thursday, of course, is July 4th, which is a little bit of a holiday around these parts. And then July 11th, I'll be on vacation. In fact, starting tomorrow. For the next couple of weeks, headed back to New York, 13-hour drive. Let's party. Just finished buying snacks from me and the 6-year-old Maisie, who co-stars on the show with me sometimes. Going to gas up the old tank, load up the car, and it's 6 a.m. tomorrow. See you later. Eastbound and down, baby, all the way. Looking forward to it. Hopefully you've got maybe a little time planned for yourselves, a little downtime. You need it this time of year. Got to get out and enjoy the weather while it's nice. And then after that, the NFL owns my ass from mid-July all the way through the 2025 NFL draft, which is fine because that means football's back, and I'm good with that. But right now, football's not back yet. And I am not going to sit here. I say this on my own podcast all the time, and I'm going to say it here too. And Alan, good for you, man. And Phantom, I have not stocked up on Count Chocula yet because they haven't released it yet. But when it comes out, believe me, I'm getting a pallet. Look, I think, I say something on my pod all the time. These lists that people put out, like 5 this and 5 that, and 3 things that if the Chiefs have this happen for them, they'll win the Super Bowl. I'm not going to do that because it insults everybody's intelligence, and I refuse to do it. Which, by the way, I'll get this out of the way at the top. If you enjoy my work, if you think that I am at least tolerable, semi-tolerable, you can find more of it over at my Patreon podcast, The Matt Verderame Show, which is all about the Chiefs. I've had guests on ranging from Louis Riddick to Joshua Briscoe to Seth Kaiser, who, by the way, is the guest tomorrow on Friday's show. I have a Monday show and a Friday show, both at least an hour in length, to a mailbag. And you can check that out over on my Patreon, patreon.com/Matt Verderame, which Richard was nice enough to drop into the chat. And you can be a member for as little as $5 a month. You get both those podcasts, $10, you get everything, including a happy hour with me once a month, plus all extra bonus and emergency shows. That is that. And by the way, the link is in the description of the video, podcast, or chat. So you can find it anywhere. That's the only time I'm going to show for myself, but I'm throwing it out there because if there's ever a time to join the show and become a member, this is it, because there's about to be enough content on that show to last us all a lifetime with the season starting. And so we will go from there. But as I was saying, yeah, great guests on that show. Trey Smith stopped by, Doug Farrar, Mike Tanier, you name it, they're on there. Patrick Allen has been a guest on there. I'm sure I will have him many times as well. And my dad, he's going to be a weekly guest throughout the course of the season. I have him on as well. So that's it. That's my plug. Okay. That's my shameless pandering. Let's get back to the Chiefs. Couple things today that we're going to touch on here, and somewhat of a shorter show since I've got 13 hours ahead of me tomorrow, and it is June 27th. First of all, as Richard dropped in there, yes, please, as you can see in the chat here, send me your questions. I'll be happy to hit as many as I can. Also, so Nick Bolton, there was a piece that came out saying that he is not looking to talk contract extension until after the season. That's notable because obviously he is eligible to be extended right now. And yet does not seem to be something that he's too worried about. The Draft Network wrote up the piece, by the way. And so he talked about that. And I think it's interesting. Like, so his answer, the question from the Draft Network, and the piece was written, by the way, to give credit, by Justin Mello, did a nice job at the interview. Says you're entering a contract season in 2024. It's the fourth year of your rookie deal, one that you've outperformed. Are you hoping to negotiate an extension before the season? And Nick Bolton said, quote, honestly, no, I don't want to talk extension before training camp. I just want to focus on getting through this season. We have one goal in mind right now, and that's being the first team to ever win 3 Super Bowls in a row. That's our mindset. I'll let my contract handle itself after our season. I want to just go out there and play the best football I can play. I'm hoping at the end of the year, we can say we're the first team ever to win 3 in a row. Fair enough. Fair enough. Not a bad mindset to have. You're a Chiefs fan. I will say I'm a little surprised. Most players will tell you, hell yeah, I'm ready to talk contract extension. You want to pay me, I'm here to take your money. That's a risky play by Nick Bolton, because if Bolton goes out and he gets hurt again this year and he misses half the year or something like that, it is a risk. On the flip side, I mean, you have to admire the fact that the guy's like, look, I don't care. All I want to do is focus on winning another Super Bowl. Fair enough. So the Chiefs are happy with that. But it is an interesting quote. It's a quote you don't hear from many players. Most players would sit there and tell you, yeah, man, it's football. I could blow my knee out tomorrow. I want to get paid right now. Nick Bolton is not looking at it that way. Now, that being said, I will also caveat it with this, with all due respect to Nick. He has an agent for a reason. And if the Chiefs go to his agent and say, we'd like to pay you 4 years and $60 million, I'm guessing his agent maybe would like to talk about a contract extension more than Nick Bolton would. Now, Nick's got to sign off on it. Nick's got to be on board with it. All those things are true. But it is interesting. It is an interesting mindset from a player who a lot of people have speculated on whether or not he's going to get a deal. So fair enough. Interesting. Now I'm going to take a few of the questions that are already here, and then I'm going to go into something that I found that was just absurd earlier today. Night Haunter says, chances KT, Kadarius Toney get cut, and Remigio makes the 53 roster. I'd say that it's not likely. I mean, I just think Remigio's a guy who's going to have an absolutely otherworldly camp. Like, you don't see it happen very often. I think it's more likely he ends up on the practice squad. And Kadarius Toney, look, I don't think he's going to make the team if Rice is active week 1. I think Moore will be the 6th receiver. But, Rice may not be active. And if he's not active, then I think Toney might have a shot to make it to the roster. Okay. Let's see. Jeremy says, thoughts on the NFL Sunday ticket case and the verdict. Yeah, so if you missed it, the NFL was found guilty in an antitrust case against how can I word this? The NFL was found guilty in an antitrust case regarding NFL Sunday ticket. So the NFL got hammered for this. So if you're keeping score of what's been going on lately, and I'll read off my colleague Albert Breer, his tweet. So he says a federal judge has ordered the NFL to pay $4.7 billion in residential class damages and $96 million in commercial class damages to fans and bars, respectively, in the Sunday ticket case. In a statement below, the leak says it will appeal the decision. And the statement reads in part, quote, we are disappointed with the jury's verdict today in the NFL Sunday ticket class action lawsuit. We continue to believe that our media distribution strategy, which features all NFL games broadcast on free over-the-air television in the markets of the participating teams and national distribution of our most popular games, supplemented by many additional choices, including Red Zone, Sunday Ticket, and NFL Plus, is by far the most fan-friendly distribution model in all of sports and entertainment. We will certainly contest this decision, as we believe that the class action claims in this case are baseless and without merit. We thank the jury for their time and service for the guidance and oversight of Judge Gutierrez throughout the trial. So, okay. I'm interested to see how the appeal goes. These things can be flimsy at times because, one person can see it one way and the other can see it told another way. And that's obviously a case of a jury and a judge. That being said, listen, I think if this holds up in court, if the appeal is heard and it works out that the NFL is found guilty again, I think that there's a world where the NFL has to completely blow up the model. In fact, I think not only there is a world, there will be the world. And I think what you're going to see is you're going to get a team-by-team streaming service. Well, it's going to be like, hey, you can watch the Chiefs for $100 a year. You're not going to get any other games. You can watch Chiefs for $100 a year. You can watch the Colts for $100 a year. I think that's possible. I think that may be coming. It's hard to argue it's not a monopoly when the NFL is, they're controlling basically one outlet can broadcast all these games. I am not a lawyer. I don't pretend to be one, but I would say that if you're the NFL, that's a significant loss. $4 billion is not nothing, even if you're the National Football League. They can pay it, but it's not nothing. So, something to consider. I was surprised that the NFL was found guilty in the sense that these things tend to kind of be swayed by these big corporations. They find the way. But I'm also not surprised in the sense that I do think there is merit to the lawsuit. All right. Let's see here. Let's see. How can I watch every Chiefs game without subscribing to anything? Sir, there are illegal ways to do things that I'm not going to get into for legal reasons. Will, would you try and pay McDuffie this offseason? Price is just going to keep going up. No. Yeah, look, Will, after this year, he's eligible. And yeah, I would. I'm a big believer in paying a guy early. The Chiefs, however, have not been a big believer in that. I am a big believer in that. I would pay McDuffie. I'd pay him $20+ million a year, and I wouldn't even blink. That guy is worth the money. He is a great player. I agree with you. Any details, Alan asks, on this rumored separate QB salary cap? Listen, I think that's something that have to be negotiated for the CBA. That's not just going to happen overnight. I think that at some point it might be worthwhile to go into that. I don't think it's going to happen soon. I think that is a seismic shift, and they'd have to start figuring different things out, and then you're separating one player from the rest of the league. I don't think it's likely, but I think at some point, if it just keeps going up, that the NFL might have to sit down and figure out some kind of an answer. Maybe that's one of the answers. Or maybe they put in a max salary, like the NBA has. Maybe they hard cap a guy. I mean, that could happen too. So I do think there's going to be some remedy at some point to these quarterback salaries. I do not think it's going to happen today or tomorrow. Do I see McKinnon coming back? Jesus, I don't. I think they're good at this point. I think they're good. I think they're going to go a little younger. I think Pacheco's a good enough blocker. They feel confident with him. I think they'll stay that way. Gene, are we going to be good? Are we going to be good at off tackle? Yeah. Yeah. Look, I mean, if I had to guess, I think they're going to play one of these kids. I don't think they're going to go break glass in case of emergency and get Donovan Smith or David Bakhtiari. I think they're going to play one of these guys. And they're probably going to give help. And that means Juwan Taylor better do his job. And he better be better than he was a year ago because he wasn't good last year. I thought he was better as the year went on. I thought his biggest issue was the penalties. But yeah, they're going to have to be better on the right side. And that is going to be Juwan Taylor not getting as much help because they're going to be helping out one of these two youngsters on the left side. My guess is Sua Mataia. But we shall see. All right. Let's see. Am I caught up at this point? Yeah, I'm caught up. All right. So the other thing I want to talk about, because I saw it and it's a perfect topic for June 27th, which is probably why the guy tweeted it in the first place. Okay. And I hate to give oxygen stuff like this, but you know what? I'm gonna today. So Pro Football Talk tweeted out something today that truly was just staggering. And I am a big, I don't go after people. I don't go after the media members. I just don't do it. I don't do it because, look, you know what? You can come after me for a million things, and I understand that, and I respect that, and that's fine. But in this case, this was so egregious and so ridiculous. I actually was like, I'm going to bring this up. So Pro Football Talk tweets out, as Patrick Mahomes creeps toward 30, the question is becoming inevitable. How long will he play? Now, that's the tweet, all right? If you click into the article, Mike Florio wrote the article. And this is the title of the article. New Patrick Mahomes Coors Light commercial will be buried until he retires. When will that be? What? What's happening? Are you serious? You're your concern as to whether or not Mahomes is getting like when he's going to retire is based on a Coors Light ad that's being put in the freezer, so to speak, until he retires. And you might be asking, like, why is that happening? Well, because players aren't allowed to rep beer or alcoholic products while they're current players. They can't promote beer. And that's why, like, Mahomes is, like, playfully done, like, Bear Light and stuff like that. Like it's a joke, but, like, he's getting paid, but, like, they're kind of working their way around it. So this somehow has become a question from someone who appears regularly on Sunday Night Football Night in America on NBC. The question was raised because of this commercial, which Florio expounds on in the piece over at Pro Football Talk, saying, quote, they're inevitable, the questions about retirement. They're inevitable for two reasons. First, the latest Mahomes ad for Coors Light, which has a recent habit of cheekily tiptoeing around the prohibition on active players doing beer commercials, says that the commercial will be put in a time capsule until Mahomes retires. So when will that be? Will he pull a Tom Brady and play until he's 45? That leads to the second reason. Via Marca.com, Marca.com, Mahomes' mother recently suggested in a podcast appearance that Patrick might not stick around until he's halfway to 90. Quote, I hear him, make comments like, if the game takes away from my kids, I might not play as long as Tom Brady. And I'm like, I'm so proud of him for that, Randy Mahomes said on the Mom Game podcast. I'll stop reading there. But that's what we're talking about today with the Chiefs and Mahomes. And I am almost emotionally deceased based on the content of this conversation. And yet here I am, because it is June 27th. And I feel like this was like, oh, let's write this up because it'll get attention. And it's certainly getting attention, because as I'm doing this, it is being ratioed at almost a 3-to-1 rate. And I got to tell you, when I saw the tweet, my first thought was, am I out of my mind, or is he not even 29 years old yet? I was like, he's not even turning 30. And I actually checked, because I thought to myself, like, it wouldn't be the first time I've ever made a mistake in my life. Like, I could be wrong. I was not wrong. He turns 29 years old on September 17th, which for the Chiefs, they'll be in the midst of preparing for Atlanta. He doesn't even turn 30 years old until next season, like during next season. Would have been a more prescient article, I feel like, to write about Travis Kelce. Like, hey, how long is he going to play for? He's got 2 years left, although he has also talked about playing till the wheels fall off. Like, that seems like that would have been a more reasonable, like, hey, let's write about Travis Kelce, who, by the way, was in London with his very famous, very talented girlfriend, Taylor Swift, who, by the way, is in the middle of maybe the greatest world tour in the history of music. And he was on stage with her. Like, that would be a seemingly obvious question to ask. Like, he's going to be 35 this year, and he's got those 2 years left, and he was kind of banged up last year, and he won 3 Super Bowls. Instead, the question was, hey, listen, Mahomes, he's 28 years old. Do we think he's going to play a lot longer? I mean, I'm not betting on it, but he could play 15 more years. Like, what? And this is where, look, this is where I dovetail away from what Florio said. I'm just going to go into my own two thoughts for a second here. Few thoughts, I should say, not two, few. Like, we need to just do a better job here at times in the media. And this is not, like, honestly, this part of it is not, it may be inspired by the folks over on Pro Football Talk, but it is more of a general thought. Like, sometimes we have to just acknowledge the fact that, hey, man, there's not a lot going on right now, and that's okay. Fans understand that. Like, I was talking about my Patreon podcast earlier, okay? I have been blown away by the amount of support since I launched it back the week before the Super Bowl. It's been beyond anything I ever could have dreamed of. There have been plenty of people who have absolutely stayed steadfast and been there the entire offseason. There have been, some people who very understandably have been like, hey, man, listen, I'll be back for the season, but like for the next 3 months, like I'm not going to subscribe and I'm not going to, pay the $5 or $10 a month. Like I'm just going to keep that money and I'll see you in September. Look, as a content creator, every little bit helps. And, I am eternally appreciative to everybody who stuck around. At the same point, I get it. I understand it. Some fans might go, hey, look, man, you know what? I've got a better use for that money in May and in June. And I get that. And I, in turn, have always tried to be honest and be like, look, I'm not going to try to sell you on some line of bullshit that, hey, I've got this big story we've got to talk about. I'm going to fabricate something and I'm going to say some crazy nonsense on the podcast so I can clip it out and put it on Twitter and I can have 35,000 followers go, oh my God, you see what Verderame said? I'm not going to do that because it's embarrassing. That is an embarrassing thing to do. I would rather watch, my subscriber base dip by 30 people during the offseason and live with that than sit there and try to drum up a bunch of nonsense. Because you know why? In the end, people are going to look at me and go, that guy's a clown. That guy's not real. That guy's not trustworthy. That guy, he's going to thump on the tub and he's not going to give me the real news all the time. And I got to kind of discern, is it real or is Verderame just trying to drum up something so people will subscribe to the podcast? That's bullshit. I'm not going to do that. And to me, as a general rule of thumb, and by no means am I perfect, by the way, God knows I'm far from that. But my point is, like, we as the media have to do a better job sometimes, just being honest. And I think most people, like, look, I'm a media member. I'm also a fan. Like, I get it. Okay. I'm a huge Knicks fan. I am all in right now because they just traded for Mikal Bridges and they signed OG Anunoby and they're trying to sign Isaiah Hartenstein. But like, you know what? Guess what? In August, I'm probably out on Knicks news, August and September. There's nothing going on. That's cool. I don't blame any Knicks media who says, hey, man, look, hope you stick around. Would really appreciate it. But if you don't, I get it. And I'll see you in a few months. And that's fine. Like, now, look, I'm in a position where thankfully I will stick around. I pay for a few Patreon shows. And I'm a subscriber to a few different Substacks because I try to support people the way I've been so immensely supported. But the point is, I'm never going to get pissed at some content creator that I read that's like, look, it's the middle of dead time in this sport. Not a problem. I'm good with that. Just don't try to sell me on some nonsense. We can talk a little minutia right now. Maybe we can do like I do on my podcast. I do a weekly history lesson, right? Like that's something that I think is fun for people. King Jamie, you just said in the chat, I wouldn't be opposed to seeing you do a deep dive into the best Chiefs player at every position from all time. Dude, on my podcast, every single Monday, I do a history lesson at the end. Like I just did one, I'd say, I don't know, the last 4 or 5, I did one on Marty Schottenheimer, and I did one on the 1986 Chiefs, and I did one on the 1971 Chiefs, and I did it's hopefully entertaining. It's hopefully a little educational. And if nothing else, it's a walk down memory lane, and that's fine. It's June. What the hell else are you going to do? I'm not going to come on here and sit there and go, hey, guys, listen, here's 5 ways the Chiefs go win the Super Bowl. Here's one. They're better than everyone else. That's how they can win the Super Bowl. There you go. The list is over. Like, I'm not going to sit there and do that. Yeah, sure. Like, there are some times you sit there, hey, here's 3 guys who can break out. And there's nothing wrong with that. Okay? But, man, I think sometimes we reach to a spot that it's like, okay, this is embarrassing. That is one thing I will say, among many, that I really appreciate from my editors and my bosses at Sports Illustrated. I'm in the midst of doing a series with Gilberto Manzano, who's a great coworker of mine. And we are writing up 32 teams in 32 days. And it's just like, look, here's a best case scenario for this team. Here's a worst case scenario. Here's the biggest gamble they took this offseason. Here's a fantasy and a betting angle on this team. We have our fantasy and betting people come in and do those. I don't write those. We have our actual experts do it. Here's a breakout player to watch. And like, they're primers. They're just meant to be, hey, here's 700-800 words. here's a primer, here's what to watch. And, it started out with the team that has the worst win total in Vegas, and then it goes all the way to the best. So if you're looking for the Chiefs, they'll be out in about mid-July. But it's so important to me to keep intellectual integrity and not just sit here and just bloviate about nonsense. So somebody you can get in the news that's a waste of everybody's time, and it makes everybody dumber, and it makes you less credible, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Makes you less credible. Sorry, it just does. It's the way it is. That's reality. That's the price you pay for the nonsense. That's why people, I honestly think, have kind of tuned out Skip Bayless and people of that ilk over time, because it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I don't need to see another prepackaged video of after the Cowboys lose to the Commanders, you take off your Dak jersey and you throw it into an empty trash can. I need to see that, because it's a joke. And you've made enough money in your life, good on you, that you can go buy 1 million Dak Prescott jerseys and not even feel it. So, I just, my sincere hope is at some point here that we just do better, and that people consume the better stuff, and the smart stuff, and the interesting stuff, and the genuinely entertaining stuff. And look, I am not on a high horse, okay? You're talking to somebody who ranks cereals on this podcast with Patrick Gowan all the time. We talk about our love of Count Chocula. I'm not saying there's not room for fun. I'm saying there's room for not insulting people's intelligence. All right. So with that being said, there you go. There's a little, 10-minute thought exercise in the middle of June, as it is supposed to be, boys and girls. All right. That being said, if anybody has any questions that they'd like to shoot into the ether, go ahead, go nuts. I'll hit them. And if not, we can go with God here on this lovely Thursday afternoon. I know it is that time of the year, as I mentioned many times over today, and you know what? That's okay. Hopefully there will be some extension news coming. Hopefully Creed Humphrey will get extended. Maybe Trey Smith gets extended. Who knows? Maybe they'll extend Justin Reed. Maybe they'll extend somebody we're not expecting. You never know how that turns out. But there was a few weeks here before training camp. You never know what's going to happen. I hope, by the way, when I'm gone here for the next couple of weeks on my vacation, although I will be doing the Matt Verderame show, that is the one show I will continue to do during the vacation. I hope that everyone is getting some downtime, enjoying their lives. Future said, what would be so, in quotes, credible news outlets you'd recommend? Man, honestly, I think there are some very, very good reporters out there. Jay Glazer does great work. My colleague Albert Breer does impeccable work. I'll tell you what, I'll give you a show that I think is really good. First Things First with Nick Wright and Kevin Wildes and Chris Broussard. They're really good. Listen, I don't know Nick very well, just a little bit. I've gone on Chris Broussard's radio show, The Odd Couple, many times over at this point. I have a lot of respect for those guys. They do good work. They're entertaining, and they have their little bits, but they're insightful. They actually try to get it right. I think, I'll tell you what, and I don't really watch a whole lot of ESPN these days. Pardon the Interruption is a great show. It's interesting. It's not always perfect. Nothing's perfect, but it's interesting. And then I would tell you that a lot of the content creators that I really like are people who are fans. I mentioned them earlier as a guest of mine on Friday's pod on my show, Seth Kaiser, who, of course, is MN Chiefs fan, as so many know, and he's on Only Weird Games on KCSN, which, by the way, KCSN, which I have a show on there as well, with Tucker Franklin, that football show. Those guys do really good work. The Arrowhead Addict crew here, that extends well beyond me. They do great work. They give a shit if they're right, and they try to be insightful. I would tell you to follow people like that. Because those people also aren't driven by an agenda, okay? They're not being influenced. That's one great thing, I mentioned one earlier, but another great thing about Sports Illustrated is, we're not beholden, the NFL is not going to call me up or call my editor and go, hey, you can't write that because you have the rights to our games. You can't say that. there's value in being able to. And look, there. By the way, to be very clear, okay, just because CBS and Fox and ESPN have the rights to games on NBC, there are plenty of people at those networks and who write for those companies who do phenomenal work, absolutely phenomenal work. And they don't care if they get a little blowback. And that's how it should be, and that's fine. But I do think that a lot of the people who do great work are these people who, man, they just guys and gals who pour their heart and souls into their podcasts and their Substacks, like really like trying their best to put their best foot forward because they have to earn your eyeballs, have to earn your dollars. And I think that there's a responsibility that comes with that. So those would be some of the people I would mention. Let's see here. I'll scroll down real quick, just catch up. Lauren, do you get the impression Eric Bieniemy has coached his last NFL game? I don't know if he's coached his last NFL game. I don't think he's ever going to be a head coach at this point. I would say that. I think him being a head coach is out the window. King Jamie, favorite player on the team right now? I mean, I think the obvious answer is Mahomes. If I had to go for another one, that's like not him or Kelce. I love watching Isaiah Pacheco. I love watching the guy. But Justin Reed's a great call. Jeremy, I don't know if I've ever asked you this. Now that you've been doing it for a little while, do you enjoy content creation more than writing and the traditional reporting stuff, or vice versa, or equal? I'd say it's equal, man. I really enjoy it all. I love writing. I love digging down and talking to people and being able, like, I tried for a handful of years to do the reporting stuff in terms of like breaking transactionals and was able to do a little bit of it. I just realized I don't like that lifestyle. That is not my deal. I don't enjoy that. I like having the league sources and having the phone numbers of a coach or a GM or a player so that I can call them or text them and make sure that I'm right and give additional information in the story. Maybe it's on background. Maybe it's a quote that's anonymous. Maybe it's a quote on the record. I like being able to give correct context. But man, I tell you what, I really do. I love doing this podcast and the Matt Verderame show and that football show and the MMQB podcast. I love all that stuff. But I equally love writing a long form and talking to a defensive coordinator and writing up, my 50 most influential teams for SI and talking to legions of Hall of Famers. I think it's, for me, that's the perfect fit, is doing it all. It really is. All right. Lauren, does the lack of an NFL supplemental draft in 2024, what impacts, if any, are there on a team like KC? I don't think there's very much, man. I really don't. Supplemental draft is pretty much, maybe there's one pick in it a year at most. I don't think there's a whole lot for Kansas City. Kathy, the running back room looks slim. Never thought it was not a priority on this team. Yeah, I think it's Pacheco and it's CEH, and then they're going to backfill the young guy. And it might be a Luis Rees-Zammit, who's the third guy. So I don't think it's so much that it's not a priority. I just think that for them, they look at it like, as long as Pacheco is like reasonably healthy and he's good for the season, the stretch drive of the season and the playoffs were good. But yeah, they're a little thinner than they've been in the past. That's certainly true. That's certainly true. Andrew, you're closing us out. What do you think the chances of Tyreek Hill coming back to the Chiefs are after his contract is up, to get all the Chiefs all-time receiving records that he missed out on? I think it's impossible. But do I think it's likely? No, because there's 31 other teams out there. I guess 30 if you're taking out the Dolphins and the Chiefs. I think it is possible, and I do think there's a world where he's sitting there going, you know what, I'd like to go for another ring, and I'd like to finish my career there. And I think the Chiefs should probably be all right with that. But I would say, is it like better than 50-50? No. Is it possible? Is the door open on that? Yeah, I think it probably would be. All right. Hey, listen, thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for being a subscriber here on the Arrowhead Addict podcast. Make sure to keep it here for everybody on this feed. I won't be seeing you guys for a few weeks, but I will be back after vacation. When I get back from vacation, it is football season in a big way. So, of course, keep it all right here. Also, the Matt Verderame show over on Patreon. You can check me out there as well. New hour-long shows every Monday, every Friday. Mailbags, guests, you name it. Emergency shows. Oh God, everything you can think of. It's all there. Just did our happy hour with the $10 members this week, which was awesome. So you can check it all out in all those places. All right. Go enjoy the rest of your week. Go enjoy your weekend and go enjoy a wonderful July 4th. Thank you so much for being here. I am Matt Verderame. I'm filling in for Patrick Allen. This has been the Arrowhead Addict podcast. Have a great rest of your day.